Let us return to Visual Studio and explore the different data binding options in action. First, I'm going to show you data binding in a separate, standalone application, a small demo, not really related to our full application. I have this index component here, and it has a component class. That would be this class here, the index class, and in here I define an employee property. As you can see in the onInitialized async, I'm creating a new employee. I'm instantiating a new employee, I should say. Hard-coded, this could be coming from an API, but that I don't want to focus on in this demo. Most of the action will actually happen in the UI, so in the Razor code, so the UI of the component. First, let me show you one-way data binding. First, the highlighted block here uses one-way data binding. I'm just going to display the employee first name and last name, and that syntax we have already seen. I'm using that here inside of a label, so a form control, and I'm just using the syntax that we've used so far at employee.firstname at employee.lastname. When we run the application, this is the result. This is what you see here. I'm showing Bethany Smith. Next, I'm using a form component, the input here. And in this case, I'm also using one-way data binding, meaning that the data will come from the source, which is this property here, and I'm going to just display that inside of the input. Then I use value equals, and then the same syntax that we already have seen before. Now, this is one-way data binding. That means that if I change something here, nothing will really happen. This is just one-way data binding. The data comes from the source, the property, but I'm not sending it back when I change something here in the UI. If I want that to happen, then I can actually use two-way data binding, where I'm going to use another syntax. I'm using the add bind here on this input. Using the add bind here, we'll create a binding, a link between the input component and the property in our component. If I now change a value in the UI, and I tap out of the component, then you will see that all other fields are updating because they're bound to the same property, but that also means that when I enter data in this very input here, data was sent back to the source. So data will be updating when I now tap out of the input component. That is a link, a binding between the UI and the property on our backing class. Now we may also want to data bind on a different event. So the onBlur, so tabbing out of the event, is the default. But for example, let's say that I want to specify that I want to automatically send the updated value on input when a key is pressed using this syntax here. Now I use add bind dash value, and then I can also specify which event, in this case the on input, I want the data binding to trigger on. If I now do another test here, and you see me typing, automatically the values are updating. That means that data is sent from the component automatically into the property. I've also this click me button here. We'll first look at the code, that is this button here. But the code will actually, let's say, reset employee.firstname to Jill. If I click on that, you'll see that the data is again streaming from the source or from the property to the UI of my component. That is again from the source to the UI.